Hi, this is Joe Lewkowicz with COLDWELL-BANKER Realty, and this is our monthly video conferencing to give you an idea of what's happening with the market right now. We're in the middle of July as we speak. Today is July 13th, and the market is at its strongest point for this month. Sales July in the Tampa area, especially the Northwest Tampa area, is the best time of year to sell. Our market generally is March, April, May, June, July, our two strongest months. Once school starts, the market starts to fall off a little bit imperceptibly, but then it accelerates every month over that. So usually the price difference between selling it in July and selling it in January can be as much as 5% difference for a particular house. And the reason for that is you get this chain reaction that goes on where everybody, like right now, I'm dealing with many houses with multiple offers, especially if the house is priced right. And people will know that they lost out on a deal. They made an offer on a home and they'll have heard from somebody and they'll know they lost out. They'll tell a friend who says, I've got to go do something. And that culminates in July and then slows up a little bit as we get to August. Just closed this week so far, 6 houses. So to give you an idea of just how strong the market is, although that's unusual for most agents who don't work as a team. So I have to say business has been really good the last couple of months. And since the beginning of May, we put roughly 30 houses under contract, and which in the Northwest Tampa area is a considerable number. Again, not just for a team, but for anybody. It's pretty much more than most people are doing. And as I've said before in these conferences, my main market is Northwest Tampa. If you were to take Bush Boulevard and I-275, go north to State Road 54 and west over to Pinellas County, some of New Tampa, that's me. That's where I like to work. That's what I know. I've been doing it for 40 years now. So a lot of people have been sending in questions, and here's our first question. Are there any outstanding issues that the Tampa Bay housing market currently faces? One of the things that's come up, it was in the newspaper today, is flood insurance. And flood insurance has to be passed by Congress to get it renewed. Several years ago, there was an issue where there was going to be an increase in flood insurance of 25% for premiums for everybody. Now, the issue with flood insurance is that if you're getting a mortgage and you're in a flood zone, you've got to have flood insurance. And if the federal government doesn't subsidize it, there are very few, if no, private insurers available, which means that you can't get a loan. That kind of freezes out the real estate market. Now, that's coming to a head before August, from what I was reading in the paper today, but they are not able to work on it because they've got a lot of other issues that they need to work on. Bipartisan support for it, so we hope it passes. Now, along with flood insurance, so many houses are completely above the flood zone. And I run into this with a couple of other homes that we had where you really need to have an elevation certificate. In other words, part of the property might be in the federally zoned area that says you're in a flood zone, but the house is a foot above the 100-year floodplain. If you don't have an elevation certificate, you may get hit. Your mortgage company may require you to buy flood insurance, and the insurer might say, in this one case that I had, that the insurance was $2,200 a year. We got the elevation certificate and it became $450 a year. And the new buyer is going to try and get the flood map changed for that particular property, and that can be a discussion of another issue. So, got another question. I've had my house on the market for over a month and have had very little interest shown. What can I do to make my house sell faster? Well, number one, are you priced correctly? Does your agent know what's happening with the market at any given time? Are you using an agent? Have you got good pictures? Are you marketing it effectively? What areas are you marketing it to? Those are all the questions that come up. I have a lot of people that call me all the time. Some I can help, some are willing to take my advice, some aren't. The ones that are, we talk about an overall marketing plan. I mean, last year I spent $240,000 on advertising my houses for sale. That's a lot of money for an individual agent. Most agents candidly don't make that kind of money in a year, so they can't do it. But one of the things that you have to do is get the word out, okay? But you also have to be very candid with the people that are, you know, people like yourself that are selling. You know, has it been priced right? What's your competition? Does your agent know what you're really competing with? What other houses can somebody look at that they would buy instead of yours? And what, you know, that'll make a big difference. So another question that just came in: what are the key points of information that I should know before buying a home in Tampa? Well, the first thing is, where do you want to live? What are your interests? Are schools important to you? Is restaurants important to you? What's your lifestyle? Do you want a big lot? Do you want a small lot? Do you like to mow grass? Do you hate mowing grass? Do you want to be on the water? The biggest thing though is, besides where you live, what's your budget? I always advise people to get pre-qualified by a good mortgage broker. Okay, so I like people that are local, but you don't have to. You got to know what you can afford first. And then candidly, when I'm telling people to go look at a house, I don't want them to look at anything that is way over their price level. I'm finding the average negotiation for homes that are priced right in this area are running the negotiations are running 2, maybe 3% at the most. That means if you're looking at a $300,000 house, you might get it, if you like it, you might get it for $290. Okay, don't go look at one that's $350,000 because they're not going to negotiate $50,000. If they were, they're probably going to be lowering it before they sell it in the next time. Got another question here. From what I know, you specialize in North Tampa. What zip codes, major neighborhoods does this include, and how is this area different real estate-wise from the surrounding location? Well, as I said, I work in Northwest Tampa specifically. That would be zip codes 33612, 13, 33624, 2526, Odessa 33556, Luce 33558, and a couple of other zip codes like where I live, which is 33548. I can't say it's a completely homogeneous area. There are some very new sections such as West Chase, Water Chase. There are gated communities, big gated communities such as Cheval, smaller gated communities such as Ladera. Also, New Tampa is an area that, New Tampa specifically, Tampa Palms is an area that I would work in. Old Carrollwood Village, some of the oldest planned unit developments in the country, and they are being redeveloped. I say redeveloped. People are going in there and rehabbing the houses, bringing them up to date, and people like those areas a lot. The difference is land's a little bit larger. The lots are generally a little bit larger in Northwest Tampa, but it varies from West Chase to the lake area of Odessa. But the commute time's pretty much the same to the working areas. I mean, we're about 12 miles from downtown to 14 miles from downtown, 12 miles from the airport working area. South Tampa, it would be a completely different feel. Brandon is a different feel than Northwest Tampa. So you really need to have somebody that knows the area, especially if we start talking about the Lake District or acreage, which is up in Odessa and Lutz. That really is a different feel for that. Another question that just came in is it worth it to try and sell my home without a real estate agent? Realistically, how quickly can I expect to sell my home by myself? Well, candidly, to me, that's the blind leading the blind. Here's really what you pay for when you hire a real estate agent. I'm finding, unless it's a house that's like 2 years old, 3 years old, which a lot of people are looking for, and unfortunately they don't exist. But the minute you get to be a house that's like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, there are so many issues that come up after the home is under contract. that really take the logistics, and that is to a big extent, we don't get hired for that. We get hired for our marketing expertise on the upfront side. But what people really pay us for is what's happening on the downside. And here's what I mean. As we talked about, you got flood insurance issues. You've got regular insurance issues. You've got wind mitigation reports. You've got 4-point inspections. You've got appraisal issues. Is the house worth what anybody thinks it is? For appraisers, I had one guy that came in on 2 of my listings that sold. The appraiser, for example, we sold one for $258,000. The appraiser came in at $242,000. How are you going to save that sale? We did just close that last week, one of the ones that we closed. My point being is there are so many issues after the sale that make logistics happen that if you go sell it yourself, number one, most buyers are working with a realtor. So you're going to be owing them money, and you don't have anybody on your side that's helping you. So I do not recommend selling a home on your own. I think the question asked, how long will it take to sell my house as by myself? Probably a year. Okay, the next question that came in. How exactly do I factor in home improvements, renovations when determining how much to sell my home for? And that is a great question. And here's what I'm finding. The houses that are really in excellent, excellent shape are selling quickly and go out the door fast. Will you make a profit on them? Don't know. If you've done them for yourself, that's the best thing that I can tell you. The issue being is if improvements were just done okay, like I was showing houses in West Chase this last week, and a lot of the houses have been painted. Some were the cabinets, some of the cabinets were painted professionally. I just sold a house yesterday that people got a bid for painting their cabinets, and it's $3,000 to get it painted. So a lot of the houses were painted by them. You could tell the people did it, and it shows. So those improvements aren't going to pull that much. They might pull more than what the regular cabinets were. But so that's more of a judgment call. Generally, if you put in a brand new kitchen, you're looking at getting 60 cents on the dollar. If you're painting your cabinets and you made it look a whole lot better, you might get 100% of what it cost you. If you hired a painter to paint cabinets, you might get 120% or 125%. It might make the house sell a whole lot better. A lot, but those are just depends on what a professional like myself who's got a lot of experience, selling roughly 10 houses a month. So I know what people are looking at. I know what I'm getting sold. I know what people are looking at in mine. And sometimes I recommend if you haven't already improved it, let's just get it clean and get it sold and price it right and let somebody else do it because it's really hard to make a profit. Let me see if we have another question that came in. What are the downsides to purchasing a home that has been foreclosed? I've sold a lot of foreclosures. I bought a lot of foreclosures. And when I was buying foreclosures, that was at the courthouse. So that's been several years ago. Haven't been doing it lately. I've sold a lot of homes that have been foreclosed, that have hit the MLS. And sometimes they are a great value. But here's what I've been finding on some of them. People get in a bidding war because they think a foreclosure is the best house. And I'm going to go back to the question we just talked about. Somebody who's done improvements to their home all along, you're probably paying 75 cents to 60 cents on the dollar for the improvements that they made to that home. You go buy a foreclosure. Let's say you find a foreclosure that's $250,000. You could buy another house that's $325,000 or $300,000. That's an absolutely mint shape that's got all the same characteristics. And yes, it cost you $50,000 more. But by the time you do the work in the foreclosure, you may be spending $75,000 to $100,000 to get it in the same kind of condition. Now, if you happen to be very, very handy, you've done renovations before, you know what you're getting into, you're going to save some money. The problem on foreclosures is even if the bank fixes them up, they're going to make it look good. But you don't necessarily know what's in behind the walls. So you really need to get a great home inspection on it and be careful that you don't get caught up in a bidding war. Let me see if there's another question. What is property liquidation and is it relevant to the general home buyer? I don't deal in property liquidations. I'll sell foreclosures. Property liquidations, I'm assuming, have to do with either a tax sale or the banks buying it, but not something that I deal with very much. Let me see any other questions. Oh, how much has the market recovered from the 2008 housing crash? And that is an excellent question for a lot of folks. A lot of people that I'm working with now have bought their houses in 2004, 2005, 2006. They've now been able to recoup about where they were before. So in other words, we're almost right back to where it was in 2006. 2008, if you bought it then, the market was already on the downside in Northwest Tampa. And so you're probably, depending upon location, at a little bit of a profit. Old Carrollwood, which is Bush Boulevard and Dale Mabry area, has probably recovered the best from that point in time. Maybe West Chase, which was newer at then, has recovered at that point, very popular area. Pasco County, State Road 54, some of those houses have not hit the 2008 pricing yet, but they're close. So, you know, and do I recommend selling? It just depends on your circumstances, and that's anything we could talk about at the time. Another question, are there any concerns when purchasing a home that has been previously investigated by law enforcement? Does this impact the actual value? I don't get enough that deal with that. I really haven't had any ones where there's been murder or abuse or that, and they don't make the public records. So that's nothing that real estate agents have to disclose. There is sites that you can go to for, are you close to sexual abusers or that, and that's one of the disclosures we have, that you have to search that out yourself. From a real estate point of view, we don't know about that because it is not public knowledge that comes up on any of our sites. There was a recent article in the paper about Zillow estimates. Do you find the estimates to be accurate? Actually, that article was yesterday. I think it was yesterday in the paper on Wednesday. And here's what I find. The paper mentioned that the Zillow estimates are pretty accurate for newer subdivisions where the houses are all the same. And I would find that to be true. They use an algorithm which comes up with a data set. Now, here's the problem. In Northwest Tampa, a lot of the houses are 1980, 1990, 2000. And even a house that was built in 2000, we're talking about a house now that's 17 years old. How much updating has it had? Again, we talked about the improvements earlier. How much do you get for the improvements? Are the cabinets painted? Are they done professionally? Are they all new kitchen cabinets? Is there all new flooring? Like the latest and greatest is tile wood floors. Has that all been done inside? The problem with an algorithm is they cannot see inside the house. They don't know the characteristics of the lot. The more unique the property, the older the property, the harder it is to value. So this is where a great real estate agent, and for that matter, this is where great real estate agents help appraisers who just kind of have to go by the numbers, and they don't get to see in all the houses that people can look at this time. This is where they can help you make a decision as to what it's really worth. Okay, and then how can they sell that down the road to A, a buyer, and B, to that buyer's lender via an appraisal. So Zillow's, like I said, Zillow's really good for the newer homes, not going to be so good for houses that have some varying characteristics. And how long are houses taking to sell right now? That's probably the biggest question I get asked all the time. When I'm out, I was out with people the other day, again, looking in West Chase, and they know what price range they can look at. The two biggest questions they ask are, actually, it's not how much is the house. They almost never ask that because they already know, they've been on there. How long has it been on the market? Houses right now, if they're priced right, this time of year are taking 30 days plus or minus 5 to sell, depending upon price range. If they're $300,000 or less, you ought to have a contract on it within 30 days. Closing is going to be about 45 days after. Again, remember we talked about getting an appraisal, getting a home inspection, doing all the things that are required to get that house ready. And then you as a seller have to pack up and get moved. We need to have some time built in there to take care of that. And the buyers, of course, this time of year, they want to get settled for school. So there's that dynamic between the two of them to see what will work. So it's a fair question. The higher the price level, the longer it can take to sell. Again, that becomes an issue where you really need to have a good agent talking to you to say, hey, what's happening in the market right now? And I recommend anytime you're talking to an agent, talk to an agent that, even if they're with a team, how many houses does that person sell themselves? How many times are you meeting them? Are you meeting are you meeting the person that does it? I'm not a team member. Okay. I have an assistant and my wife works with me. I do mostly just Northwest Tampa, as I've talked about. And I'm selling, so far closed 40 houses since February, and we've got 22 under contract. What that brings to the table is I can tell you right now what's happening in the market today, what people are looking at, what buyers are looking for, what their agents are looking for, how long is it taking to close, what are the issues that we're going to deal with. And those are the big things that you need to worry about. So it looks like, hey, we're out of questions for today. I appreciate everybody tuning into this. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to me. Again, we do this the first Thursday of every month, or second Thursday of every month. And I'm happy to answer anything to you. You can go on my website. Feel free to send me a question via email, and I'll be happy to get back with you. And again, I'm Joe Lewkowicz. I'm with Coldwell-Banker Realty. Thanks for coming.